Well, many congratulations, Ashish Bhasin. What a big moment for you to be elevated as the Asia Pacific CEO of Dentsu Aegis Network. Did you see this coming?
Thank you very much, Sonali. Of course, as a professional, you always aspire for a bigger job and a bigger role. I didn't see it coming, but definitely it's something I'm very happy about and something I'm looking forward to.
So what is the real differentiation now for your role going forward? You've been mighty successful, in your role as CEO of DAN India, and last year you were elevated to Greater South. So what is the big differentiation in your job role?
Well, the first big differentiation is that the geography changes completely, because APAC is huge for us, and there's some very large markets. For example, China is a very, very big market for us. Australia, New Zealand, we have a very large business. There are other very big businesses like Taiwan, Hong Kong, South Korea, etc., which earlier I was not involved in. So that geography changes. The second thing is that I'm also now going to be a part of the global exec, and when you're part of the global exec, you know what's being planned, and you're part of the planning process for the future of the company. And B, in some ways, you can lend the voice for APAC and for India in that. So I see those as two big changes, and I think very importantly, now there will be a bigger set of colleagues I'll have. There'll be 14, 15,000 of us in APAC, and that's a big change, because at the moment we are 3,700, 3,800 in India, and now I have to drive a team of 14, 15,000 people and move in one direction with them. So that's of course going to be a big challenge.
It's interesting because we've not had many elevations in terms of APAC CEOs from India, although we have able managers here. So this is double celebration. But I'm also curious to ask you, A, you can comment on why such few men actually make it to the APAC goalpost. But B, Dentsu being Dentsu, right? I mean, how did they, look at an Indian to manage, large parts of APAC? It's also interesting.
Well, I personally believe, and there's nothing to do with Dentsu Aegis Network, but in general, I generally believe that the advertising and marketing communications talent which is available in India is second to none. And we ourselves underestimate ourselves in that way. And it's not just in one sphere. Whether you look at creative, you look at digital, you look at planning, anywhere, some of the best managers are here. We need to have the confidence to now play on a larger canvas, on a world frame. If you see the way our advertising industry evolved, up to the 1990s, we were in a very closed, very small, because the economy was closed and so on. In the 2000s, we had good growth, larger bits started happening. I think now we need to start looking beyond our shores. In India, we tend to be very inward looking, and we try to keep, our benchmark is people around us.
Yeah.
But there is a very big world outside of, India is very big, very important, all of that. But there's a huge world outside where you can learn a lot, you can contribute a lot too. Because there's one problem with our industry here in India. Like I was saying, it is very incestuous. It's very inward looking. You're not, your world ends around you. I think the sky is the limit, because like I said, Indian talent is really good. They're hardworking, they're intelligent, and there is no reason why we should fight shy of looking at bigger and bigger responsibilities to take.
How big is your Chinese market for Dentsu?
It's huge. In fact, China is the #1 market for DAN in all of APAC by far. And that's also to do with the relative size of China as a market, which in itself is very big. But within that, we have a very mature, very robust, very large operation across various brands, various businesses. Of course, like many other businesses in China, our business is also undergoing a transition, because the whole economy is undergoing a transition, has its own set of challenges in that bit, but it is huge and large for us.
Sure, of course. And what's the brief given to you as APAC CEO? What is it that you need to train in? What is it that you need to accelerate? And where does Dan need to go from here?
So one of my first endeavors is going to be to make sure that in this changed environment, where the advertising environment is changing, we are future-proofing ourselves, because advertising tomorrow is not going to be the same as advertising yesterday, and that will hold true whether you're in India, China, Australia, USA, wherever, right? So I've got to make sure that the organization is future-proofed. It's not about 1 year, it's not about 2019 or 2020 numbers, it's about next 10, 15 years, right? we have significant advantages over our competitors.
Such as?
The biggest one of them, I think, is one P&L.
Okay.
Right? Because we are able to bring in deep specialisms, and if we are able to get them working together, it's made magic wherever it's worked. And I think India is one very good example of that. It doesn't work in the same way in all markets, and therefore a lot of effort has to be put in consistently to make it work and to keep.
But are you saying the one P&L philosophy is currently working in India, but you're saying not in other markets?
Well, it's working very well in India. It's working well in some markets. There are markets where it needs to work better. And even in India, there are issues which we have and therefore we need to improve upon. So that's a big edge and I want to capitalize upon that. Us being digitally ahead compared to most of our competitors in a world which is digitally transforming is a natural edge that we have. And I want to make sure that we're using that, and that in itself will future-proof us. So I think these are some of the areas that I want to focus on straight away as soon as I get in.
Right. Ashish, if we can just like flash back and look at the last few years that the world has seen in this particular domain, and specifically India, since you were running an Indian entity. I mean, what's the story? How sad is it? And given the fact that we've now even lowered our growth pace, what do you think we're going to expect? Given that the world and clients believe that advertising and marketing costs must first be cut, is it all gloom and doom?
I completely disagree with you. I think there hasn't been a more buoyant part of our life cycle as an industry as in the last 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
Right? India has been the only major market in the world where we've been having double-digit growth consistently on that. Yes, this year there is a little bit of an economic slowdown and there's a lot of pessimism which is coming in and for right reasons in that sense. But even then, all the estimates show that it will be high single digits or a double-digit growth here, right? So any other country would give their right arm and right leg to exchange that growth figures for what they have. However, there is a very big difference that has happened over the last few years. There has been a complete restructure of the advertising business. So the traditional legacy agency business who were used to living off media incomes or commissions out of one ad that they produced and then ran it for six months or something, that business is gone and that's never going to come back. So if people are looking on those as the good old days, I think they may as well forget about it, right? Clients want return on investments, they want accountability and measurability. And the fact is the world has gone digital and agencies who haven't been able to change with that are feeling the pressure, and I feel are going to feel even more pressure.
But I'd be curious to know, when you say that today, are you saying that significant parts of your business, or rather close to half of your business, comes via digital?
46% of our revenues in India last year came out of digital.
And this means, is this digital production as well?
Of course, digital production, digital creative, digital media, MarTech, Marcom, all of that, right? Of course, and if you look at the people, I mean, I have 3,800 people, about more than 2,000 of them are in digital, right? So, and that part of the business, even in the so-called slowdown, is growing at over 20-25% even today, right? In the slowest of the times.
But how about the margins?
Very healthy.
But when you compare it like to like digital versus traditional, aren't the margins?
Digital is far more profitable for us.
Is it?
It is, because there's bloodbath in the traditional business, right? If you look at the media part of the traditional business, I think as an industry we are on a suicide path in the way the commissions are going down and so on, right? And if you look at the creative part of the traditional dinosaurish holding companies and those kind of creative agencies, I think they're stupid. They just feel that by lowering their fees, they're going to get more business. It's not going to happen. By lowering your fees, you'll get less money for the lesser business that you have, and it'll go down and down. So that's not, for them, a very profitable part.
So are you then stating that the health of Indian agencies, and holding companies are in its pink? I mean, it doesn't seem like that.
To me, it feels that if you talk about most agencies and holding companies, it's in the red and not in the pink. I can tell you for my business, I don't know their finances. I can tell you for my business, we've had growth year on year. This is going to be hopefully another record growth year for us.
So what, I mean, how is that possible with you doing that and the others not doing?
I'll tell you. One of the, so the biggest answer to that is actually one P&L. It's the way we've structured. So you always get a premium for specialism. right? If you go to a doctor, you go to a general practitioner, you pay a certain fees. You go to a specialist, you pay, and that's the same in almost any industry, right? We set up deep specialisms with best in class in each of those verticals or specialisms or whatever you call it, be it out of home, be it events, be it social media, be it search and performance, whatever. The best and the largest company in each we brought into our group, that talent, right? Then we got them to work together and brought them under one P&L. So none of them had an agent. So what that one P&L means is that we have 23 agencies in India. If we don't, when I reported out as a India CEO to the region, I reported out as Dan India. I didn't report out as Kera India, Postoscope India, Taproot India, etc. Right? So if India didn't meet its numbers, none of us 3,800 people would get a bonus, including me. Right? So our destinies were linked together. That's one P&L. Now, what this makes me do is that if tomorrow I have a client who has a particular need for a brand, I am not compelled to normally the traditional media guy would go and traditional creative guy will go and say, look, the best thing for you to do is to make a 3 crore film, right? The digital guy would go and say, no, that's all rubbish, that era is over. You should put all your money in digital. The outdoor guy will say it's outdoor that works. I don't have to do that. I can make a fluid team of the best talent, best of Dan talent, and give the client the best solution that is for him under that one P&L, but at the same time without sacrificing the specialisms that I've built.
And how does that work vis-a-vis other holding companies?
Well, they're all trying to do it by different names. Some call it one village, one horizontality, and so on and so forth. But now the cat's out of the bag. It's too late for them, right? We have by being prime movers, we have a huge edge, first of all. Now their silos are so strong and so deeply entrenched. Much as they try to do it, they can't. One of the holding companies announced that they are now going to do a similar one P&L, but they said, but it's going to be a one P&L which is going to be run by a committee, which will have some media people and some creative people and some whatever other people, etc. You can't have half P&L. You either have one P&L or you don't have one P&L. So I think it's a distinct edge. I think others will also catch up. They're also making an effort, but we have that prime mover advantage, so we're using it to the fullest of our ability.
So you've also been well known for the number of acquisitions you have made, especially in this market. And now as APAC CEO, will the same follow?
I think so. I hope so, because to me, acquisitions are beyond money. The money is very important and it does bring you that. But if they're strategically done, I think they bring in great talent into your group, which you otherwise would never have been able to. So in India, I'd set for myself a rough rule of thumb that 50% of my growth should be organic and 50% should be through acquisitions. Some of the people that we've acquired, I could never have had them as my employees because they would never want to be. They've already got their own businesses. But can you imagine what sort of talent you're able to bring in? And then the magic happens if all this talent you can put them all on one table and get them all to move and work on one direction. So
I think it's easier. I mean, it sounds very ideal and easy, but I'm sure it's
very
task.
difficult. Yeah. It's a mammoth task and it's an everyday task and it's a task that never gets done, right? But we've been very lucky on that. I can tell you in India, attrition is very high in advertising agencies, and you can verify this. In the last 11 years, not one senior management person of all our leaders, whether it was from the erstwhile Aegis side or Dentsu side, who we didn't want to lose, have we lost. Zero attrition in our management team, and that's unique, and that's what makes it happen.
Okay, fair enough. On that note, thank you so much, Ashish, and all the very best for your new innings, as APAC CEO, and more strength and gusto to you, and may you make us all proud.
Thank you very much, Sonali, and thank you for all your support.